Hey Downers! From now till the end of the year, you can join the Downers Club and support the show for as little as $1 a month. As a club member, you'll get all of the bonus episodes that we do every single week and access to our exclusive Downers Club Facebook group. This is a limited time offer, so get in there before 2018 and check out all the fun we're having for just $1. For more information, check out tsidpod.com/support. The following is a Goulash Media production. goulashmedia.net.
Welcome to the System is Down.
What is up, my Downers? Welcome back to what is typically the least comfortable show on the web, The System is Down. But today is a special day. Today is an exception to that rule because today is not an uncomfortable discussion in any way whatsoever. This weekend, the new Star Wars film, The Last Jedi, comes out. So, myself being a very large Star Wars fan, I just wanted to have a fun episode where I get a group of Star Wars nerds together and we just chat about Star Wars. We talked about everything from the prequels to predictions of where Disney will take Star Wars into the future to just our history with Star Wars and our love of Star Wars. We also recorded at least a full bonus hour of content where we compared Rogue One and The Force Awakens, and it got pretty heated, and there might be some yelling, there might be some name calling, and I'm probably right throughout the whole argument, but, you know, it's my show. So, that'll be available to everybody in the Downers Club, in the bonus content. I also have an announcement to make. I'm basically starting a whole new podcast where we will be reviewing movies and maybe some TV shows. It's going to be called Rotten Potatoes. I know, clever, right? And it's going to be available to everybody in the Downers Club as well, starting at just $1 a month to support the show. It'll basically be just myself and some friends getting together and ranting about movies and giving them ratings. Good movies, bad movies, all movies. We're just going to keep throwing them out there because that's something I like to do. In fact, before I started The System is Down, and right after I started it, I was watching some movies and shows and things, and I was like, you know, I really just want to start a whole new podcast and do that on the side as two different things. But that just doesn't make sense because, you know, you guys are paying attention to this. So I thought, hey, I'll give it to my Downers that I currently have. If you're interested in something completely different, that's what it's going to be. And like I said, it'll be available to everybody in the Downers Club starting at as little as $4 a month. So get in there. Get in there now. Maybe I'll post, I don't know, 1 or 2 episodes out here so you guys can see what we're doing. See if it's something that you want to get into. But for the most part, it's going to be exclusive. So check that out. If you don't know what the Downers Club is, it's basically the fan club for the show. It's our patrons who support the show financially and help us build this into something bigger and better. And in return, they get tons and tons of bonus content, audio content, every single week. And at certain levels, they get free shirts. And with this whole new show, the Rotten Potatoes movie reviews dealio, I'm actually going to start putting in new levels of perks that you can get for supporting the show at different levels, where you will be able to come and review some movies with me, and you will be able to give your own input, and maybe I'll send you some movies. But all that stuff is still in the works. Get in on the ground floor right now by going to tsidpod.com/support. Also, if you like what you hear in this episode or any of our episodes, we have a forum where you can join that for free and come in and chat with us about everything that we're talking about here. Right now, it could just be Star Wars. Even if you just like Star Wars, come in and talk about Star Wars. But we also talk about our typical topics, conspiracies, politics, religion, and every single thing that we can think of that is uncomfortable to talk about. So go check that out. You can do so by going to tsidpod.com/forum, or you can just go to Facebook and type in The System is Down Forum. It is a closed group, so you'll have to ask to join, but if you look like a real person, I'll let you in, no problem. But enough with the ads. Let's get to the delicious Star Wars talk. And you can bet your butt that there's going to be a Last Jedi Rotten Potatoes review very shortly after premiere night this Thursday. So be on the lookout for that. Until then, without further ado, let's get weird. Today's episode is going to be very different and unique, and it's going to be fun and enjoyable, I assume. Today we are straying from the typical path and the current or the normal format of the show and talking about something that is completely not uncomfortable at all, because we all know it, we all love it. Today we are having the first ever The System Is Down Star Wars Celebration 2017. Maybe we'll do this as an annual thing, I don't know. But The Last Jedi is coming out, well, it'll be this Thursday. We've got a big group of nerds that are here to just chat about Star Wars. So let's start off by getting some introductions. Let's keep it short and sweet, because most people don't care who you are. They just want to hear about the stupid things that you watch. Brad Moran, how's it going?
Hi, my name is Brad. I like Star Wars. I like to keep it short and sweet.
Appreciate that. Nathan Sipes, what's up?
What's up? I too like
Jeanette.
Star Wars.
Jeanette, how's it going?
Hi. I like Star Wars.
And we got Forrest Bazat. What's up?
This is Forrest Bazat standing by.
Very nice.
That says it all.
Yep, you win. Cole, I don't think we can even intro you now because Forrest killed it.
True.
Cole, how's it going?
Yeah, my name is Cole. I watched a few Star Wars.
Yes. So, on a scale of 1 to perfect, how would you rate all Star Wars movies as a whole? Anybody go?
What does that question even mean?
Just answer it.
Ooh.
It's over 9,000.
That's Dragon Ball Z.
Oh, thank you. Never tell me that.
All right, let's just start off by everybody sharing your history with Star Wars. Where did you first see Star Wars? What impact has Star Wars had on your life? If you have like some fun story, feel free to share. Whoever wants to chime in,
sure,
go ahead.
I'll go
'cause this
first.
is casual. Brad, you got to wait till I stop talking, and then
I wanted to initiate the signal to talk. I wanted, because I thought we'd keep it rolling.
I appreciate the initiative. Now, go for it.
No, I think like one of my more favorite memories was just like having the movies, the first 3, 1, 2, and 3 come out in high school, and that was kind of like fun to like anticipate them coming out and just like be really excited and looking forward to it, kind of like people did for the first 3, like 4, 5, and 6 back in the 70s,
Right.
when all this new like technology was coming out and the movies looked so different and so cool.
Were you an attender of the premieres?
I was, all 3 of them actually.
Nice.
Midnight premieres, dressed up for a couple of them. I was excited, yeah.
Absolutely.
And I kind of lost like some of that momentum going forward too.
I haven't. I'm still doing
Really?
that. Yeah.
Like 7, 8, and 9 are just kind of like,
Hey, shut up. Shut up. No. We'll get there. All right. Who's next?
I guess I can go, except the story will make me feel old again.
The youngest person here says. Go ahead.
Yeah. You're going to actually probably hate this, Dan, but my very first introduction to Star Wars, at least the one that I remember,
Don't say it.
the one I remember is
say it.
I used to, my dad, yeah. Would you like me to just stop right there?
No, go ahead. Talk about the prequels.
You're gonna hate my dad for this. Yeah, to keep me and my brother distracted whenever we had to basically spend a day in his office, is that he would pop in a VCD, yes, VCD, of The Phantom Menace.
Fair enough.
And so we would watch that, and at the time I didn't realize it was the worst Star Wars movie ever. I just thought, ooh, glowy swords, and
Exactly.
Satan looked dude.
Mm-hmm. Nathan, how about you?
Well, I literally can't remember a time where I wasn't watching Star Wars. So I guess you could say it's on par with my family members.
It's like when you're in a church and they're like, "Tell us about when you got saved." It's like, I've always been saved since as long as I can remember. I've been saved by Star Wars.
the Force has been with
Yeah,
me.
The
exactly.
Force has been with
Like,
you the whole time.
I mean, I've been thinking about it for the last few years because, and especially now that I have a daughter that I want to share Star Wars with, I was thinking, when is the appropriate age to reveal the you know,
The holy
I'm your
mysteries.
father.
Oh yeah.
You know, like
Yeah.
I want to reveal that to her at an age where I can actually see that reaction, and
Right. She is too
and
old.
so I was trying to think.
Too old to begin the
But I
trial.
remember the first time I saw that, and I really can't remember any age that I was not watching Star Wars. So
Nice.
I don't I don't really have a story. I thought about asking my parents if they introduced me to it or if I found it on my own. And
So
I
the
don't
original
really-
trilogy before the prequels was your
most
introduction?
certainly, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I am older than
16.
Forrest. Yeah, I don't know how old he is.
The only one getting singled out here.
Hey, you're the one who said it's going to make you seem old because you were watching The Phantom Menace, which came out in 2000. So,
Just the fact there's ECD.
right. Well, anybody can obtain old technology. All right, Jeanette, take it away.
I remember watching Star Wars, the original trilogy, with my brother, and my brother and I really didn't get along that well, so watching Star Wars together was really like our bonding time. And when the prequels came out, we had lived a few states away from each other, so I remember sending like torrented copies of the prequels
Nice.
in the mail to each other. And so really that's my fondest memory of watching the Star Wars trilogy when I was younger, was just watching it with my brother. And
If you're going to go
then-
through the trouble of bootlegging something, couldn't it at least be the original trilogy
well,
and sending it through the
yeah,
mail?
but then again, did you really want to own the prequels on actual DVD? Like, did you want to spend money on those? So
I did. I still
I
did.
did.
Yeah.
Not a
I have
bad
it.
argument, though.
Yeah. True. All right, cool. So,
Okay. I'd say earliest memories of Star Wars were I was just too young to even like the movies, because the original trilogy was, I mean, I remember watching them as young as like being able to not even get through them because of how young I was. It was like, these are long and I couldn't even stay awake
long
for the whole thing.
and not as flashy.
They weren't,
as the
yeah,
prequels.
as a child, but then like a young child, and then when I got like a little older, like 8, 9, 10, whatever, and started watching them and just playing with all the action figures and stuff. And for as long as I can remember, that was like the go-to for me and all my buddies. We'd play with our stupid toy lightsabers and like run around town, like the whole
They were
town,
great.
run around town with our, $20 lightsabers that could light up and play in the dark. Wait for it to get dark, and then play with lightsabers, because then it's like, oh, I can only see like a blue rod over there or a red. But
the nerdiest tyrants in town.
yeah. I mean, I remember riding my bicycle carrying a lightsaber, and so as early
I
as
still
could,
hang one out my car window when I'm driving.
Yeah.
So
as early as I could play
I
with.
shout, "Now this is pod racing."
it's like you're jousting.
And I remember the prequels coming out, obviously, and that being a big deal, like Brad said. I mean, I wasn't quite old enough to go to all the opening nights. I remember specifically, I remember seeing episode 3 when it came out with my dad and his friend, and I think we went to episode 2 as well. But I specifically remember episode 3 because the opening scene was just so cool with all the spaceships, and that just blew my mind at that age. And it was, I don't know. So for the longest time, yeah, I've always been just. I mean, I still have a room entirely decorated with Star Wars toys. So
Yeah, I have a closet
I
full
mean,
of
look
them
at
and an
yeah, look
office
at this
filled with them
room.
right now.
This room's got them all over the place. So.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. So let's go through and do quick rankings of. If you want to go through all 8, you're welcome to, of best to worst, or you can just do favorite and least favorite. I can say definitively, Empire Strikes Back 1.
Yeah.
I mean, call me a blasphemer, but I would say The Force Awakens is 2 for me. A New Hope's 3, Return of the Jedi's 4,
Wow.
and then 3, 2, 1, blast
Wow,
off.
see, I
oh,
hate-
and then Rogue One.
I hate
Not
the
really.
prequel
Rogue
hate.
One's not after all those. Rogue One is before 3, I
Yeah.
think.
No, it should be like never mind. I'll
Rogue
do
One
my
and
own.
3 are
Yeah.
about equal to me, but we'll get into that later. Just so everybody knows listening, we're not going to be comparing, we're not going to have the debate of The Force Awakens versus Rogue One, because we're going to do that in the bonus segment. So if you want that, you'll have to join the Downers Club and go listen to it, which only one person nobody in this entire group is in the Downers Club. Forrest, you're in the
I
Downers
can't
Club,
afford
aren't
it.
you?
I
Make the
cannot
episode.
afford it.
Oh yeah, Forrest is. Nobody else can afford $1. So, but yeah, we'll get
Times
into
is
that
hard.
later.
More truth than not, but
All right, Brad, how about you?
I would just like to premise my ranking by saying that I already hate like the amount of prequel hate that's like emanating from this group because I
I'm with
love
you. No,
I
I'm
love
with
the
you.
prequels.
Okay,
I love
too.
them.
I do
prequel
too.
conversation is coming up next.
Yeah, I know.
That's why
I'm
I wanted to get everybody's
God.
reviews
But-
real quick.
Sure.
Or
With that being
numbers
said,
real quick so we know where
6
they
is
stand.
still my favorite. With that being said, as much as I love the prequels, mine is like 6, 3, 4,
like 3 more
1.
than Empire Strikes
I'm
Back?
sorry, Empire Strikes.
Let him
I think-
finish.
yeah, exactly.
Let him finish.
6,
All right.
6, 3, 4, 1.
Whoa.
No, Force Awakens is higher. I
was
just
gonna
can't.
say.
I can't remember like 7 things in a row right now. Force Awakens is definitely higher.
It's hard.
My least favorite is probably A New Hope. I'm sorry.
Holy
4 is on the
balls.
list. Maybe 2 might be beating 4.
Where's Rogue One fall into that?
Oh, it's way up there. It's probably 3 or 4. It's up in the higher ranks.
Huh.
I can't just like rank these 8 things. They're not rankable in that way. You
Sure.
know? But 6 is definitely my favorite. I just love the story. I've watched 6 so many times.
Yeah,
I love it.
I would say 6 was my favorite as a child for sure. Mm-hmm. But like
Just
rewatching them
Jabba,
now,
just the opening Jabba getting killed. I just could watch that over and over again. I
it's just
love that
because
barge.
of Metal Bikini Princess Leia, isn't it?
A lot of things.
I mean, the internet
mostly just
wasn't a
Jabba.
thing as much as it is now.
All right, somebody
hard.
else, go ahead real quick.
I'll go.
I typed up my list real quick.
Oh, yeah, Forrest, go.
Okay, yeah, number 1 is Rogue One right now.
You guys,
Then, no joke. Number 2 is Revenge of the Sith. Number 3, A New Hope. 4, Empire. 5, Return. 6, The Force Awakens. And then 7 and 8, Attack of the Clones and The Phantom Menace.
Okay,
I respect some of that.
sure, a little bit. All right,
Some of that.
next.
All right, I'll go. So I feel like the Rogue One and Force Awakens are still new enough that it's hard for me to rank them effectively. I'm still going to go ahead and put them in, but
There's no nostalgia
think-
factor there.
right. I mean, the test of time is really important, and there's been enough between the original and the prequels to kind of understand their place. But for me, it would probably be 5 and then 6, and then right now I'm kind of feeling like 2 and or 4 would come after that.
Okay,
And I'll go more into
2.
no,
Two-
not 2.
2 or 4?
Gosh.
Yeah,
7.
That was weird.
You're
That's
comparing
fine.
Empire Strikes Back and
Yeah.
Love Story.
Yeah, it's just hard to keep.
Love Story about sand hate.
Guys, I just really hate sand. So it's
It's coarse and it gets everywhere.
It's everywhere.
let me start over. I'd say probably 5 and 6, and then 7 and 4 are pretty close right now. Again, it's hard to say.
Sure.
I'll go more into my thoughts on 4 later, but then Rogue One definitely falls above any of the prequels for me.
Sure.
As far as the prequels are concerned, honestly, I didn't watch them as much as I watched the original trilogy, so they kind of 2 and 3 blur together for me.
Yeah.
To a certain degree. And 1, I will say 1 was good because it had that excitement factor of like
Right.
being really excited to go see a new Star Wars movie.
Totally.
And so
I agree.
it'll always carry a little bit of that emotional weight, even though it was a little bit of a letdown. It did carry that like excitement factor.
For sure.
And it also had pod racing, so that was pretty cool.
That was cool.
Space
It was
NASCAR.
cool.
And the game that came with
Yeah.
the N64
Yeah,
game, I
N64.
love that.
Oh, that was a
It
great
is
game.
one of the best games of all time. I
So
will
was
not
a great
deny
it
that.
carries a lot of weight there for the nostalgia factor, plus Darth Maul.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Nathan,
He is
Yeah,
back.
Screw you, George Lucas, killing Darth Maul off after
Yeah,
3 lines in
seriously.
the series.
Insta death.
Well, you know he doesn't
Nathan,
actually die
Nathan, I'm
from that,
surprised
right?
that,
So
Yeah.
Nathan, I'm surprised that 2 3 blurred for you. I would think they would be 7 and 4 since they're pretty much the same movie.
Yeah, thank you.
Shut up.
I guess they don't blur for me because of the decade span.
All right, Jeanette, how about you?
I was just gonna go favorite and least, but since everyone's ranking them as well, I'd say number 1 for me definitely probably is Empire, followed by
What?
followed by Episode 6, and I'm kind of like Nathan, where like with Rogue One and The Force Awakens, like I can't really rank them in this list quite yet. Like
Too soon.
Just do it.
I could probably put Force Awakens in there, but for me,
Nobody's going to
Rogue
hold
One,
you to this, so feel free to
right?
just...
Rogue One is just kind of. I think Rogue One's more or less the odd man out, you know, and so as much as I liked that one, I don't think I can rank it in this list. Going on down, I like. I think I like Force Awakens more than A New Hope. So I'm gonna throw that in there, and then 3, 1, and 2 in that order.
Alright.
Because one was, like Nathan said, it had that
Right.
feel of like, oh my gosh, I'm a kid and I get to go see Star Wars like my parents did, and that's
Right.
amazing. And so there's definitely that love there for it. But
Absolutely.
now watching it as an adult, it's like, wow, this is freaking stupid. Sorry,
yeah,
Brad.
yeah. It's like for me, 1 and 2 kind of blend together actually, because I've watched 3 more recently because everybody's like, oh, that's the one that's still decent. And I actually watched 1 way more than 2, so it's kind of like a toss up because 1 has the nostalgia factor and the fact that we were all excited to
Let's just.
go there. What?
I think I'm gonna say 2. 1 is the worst in its own ways, but 2 is the worst.
Yeah, 2 doesn't need to exist in any
Because-
way whatsoever.
Because
It was just like, oh my gosh,
was-
I don't care about any of this.
well, it was because
I'll
of
agree
Can we
with
move on?
the way they directed Hayden Christensen through the whole thing, and he's a good actor, but it's just the way he was doing it and the things that they decided were okay for him to his emotions throughout the whole movie.
I will say Hayden Christensen was a big letdown.
He
for
did a
sure.
But
bad
is he
job
worse than
in episode
Jake-
2.
Whatever his name, Jake Lloyd or whatever. Is he really worse?
No,
I
Jake
don't
Lloyd's
think,
not worse.
I don't think it. Okay.
Hayden Christensen is a great
Cole,
actor.
Okay, we're
though.
definitely going to rant about the prequels
Sorry.
here. So Cole, go ahead and give your count, and then we'll jump
Okay.
into that.
How are we ranking this? Are we like I can pop this in anytime and enjoy the hell out of it? Like
However you
is that
want.
my favorite one?
This was supposed to be a quick
Or-
throwaway question.
Okay,
so
well it's
however
not a
you wanna
throwaway.
rank it, it's
Everybody's putting a lot of thought
It's
into
not
this.
going to be a quick throwaway question.
Okay. Okay. I think Empire's my favorite one. It's got all the best. Okay, Empire is first. This is gonna be difficult. Okay, 6. I honestly 3. After that,
Wow.
maybe The Force Awakens. After that, 4. 2, 1, and then Rogue One. Did I cover them all?
Wow, Rogue One's
You
last.
didn't say. Did you say 6?
Yeah,
Okay.
second.
So
Yeah, it was
I have
after
5,
Empire.
6, 3. 5, 6, 3.
So you've got
5, 6, 3. Force
That's an
Awakens.
area code.
That's 7.
Uh-huh.
And then 2, 1, Rogue One.
okay.
That's my order.
Sure, that's fair. Now let's talk about some prequels. Now, my biggest issue with the prequels. Okay, I will say first off, my children haven't really watched the prequels because I won't allow them to just succumb to
ignorant.
the
That's
dark
ignorant.
side of just flashy nonsense that
That's ignorant.
makes them. What do you say?
That's ignorant.
It's ignorant, dog.
You're ignorant.
it's part of the saga, bro. I mean,
Yeah, we're gonna get
love
there,
it or
but
hate it.
the thing is, they have to appreciate Star Wars before they can just be like, let's watch this
I
live
like
action video
as a
game.
kid, I enjoyed the prequels
You know what?
more than the originals as a child, and
I
and
think
now
I did too.
I respect the originals more than the prequels.
I agree with you, Dan. Though I agree with like the allure of like the original Star Wars. Like they need to understand the
Yes.
process.
You have to know. You have to
and then you can
respect
get
it first.
into the newer. I agree with that. I do.
Okay, yeah,
I think I was 13 before the prequels, and so I had a good decade and some odd
Right.
years to really enjoy them. So-
right, and I'm older than you, but my parents didn't allow me to watch it because it had some other religion in it. But they eventually did.
That
and
old religion.
I did get into the original trilogy first, but I will say, as you said, Nathan, and most people have said, just the memories of watching the prequels, whether they're good or not, they definitely have a soft spot in my heart, even though I think that they did not do the series any justice because of, the poor directing is the only thing, and George Lucas trying to be an overachiever and do things that hadn't been done, but
That's
couldn't
kind of what
be
he
done.
did with the originals, though,
it's true. But
and that's why they were.
right.
Yeah.
But you look back at the originals, and because they used actual props and
Right.
practical effects, those still hold up. Like
But he's doing them in
spaceships
ways
flying,
nobody
they
else
still
did
look
them.
real. The stuff in freaking episode 1, it looks like a bad computer game.
So let's say he was innovative then, and he was sort of innovative even with the prequels, just in a way you don't prefer.
I don't deny he was innovative, but if you can't do it, don't do it. Just like
Right.
CGI Princess
I
Leia.
agree. I agree. Oh
I
my
think the
god.
big
Right,
change
yeah.
in,
You wanna
in
talk
the,
about that?
the,
Let's
the
do it.
difference between the originals and the prequels for me is that the team that was working on the originals versus the team and the power structure of how the prequels went is essentially Lucas had exclusive rights to every decision,
Right.
and that's always a bad decision whenever someone
Yeah.
gains the ultimate say and doesn't have a team that has to deliberate on it. I think you're
Right.
always going to end up with something subpar.
It's like a-
there's,
it's like
there's
a
no
band.
checks and balances. He's just like,
Yeah.
I'll do this. And I mean, have you guys seen like the behind the scenes footage of when they watch Phantom Menace for the first time, and he's sitting in the theater, and it just ended. He's like, "Oh, we may have gone too far with that." Like, yeah, you did.
There was a part of the problem, like actually one of the problems that I noticed when reading some behind the scenes for the Phantom Menace is that obviously we know that George Lucas wrote the script, and
Right.
when he basically explained the process like this, when he sat down knowing that he was going to write a script for the first new Star Wars prequel, his very first question was, well, more accurately, his very first sentence was, "Okay, now I need a story," and I'm like, "Uh-oh."
Right.
like,
if
you
you don't,
didn't-
if you didn't have the story, then don't bother. Like,
Yeah.
don't force the story to happen. And my biggest issue with all of them, and I, as Cole and I were saying before we started recording, before you guys got here, Cole said that he thinks that it was a story that needed to be told in the Star Wars universe,
Yep.
but it wasn't done well, and I
It
completely
wasn't
agree
done
with
as
that.
well as it could have been done. However, it gets way more flack than it deserves. I'm with Brad on this because no, it does. Like it's popular to hate the prequels, but they're important. Yeah, they made mistakes, but damn it, they're still
So
a
many
big part of
mistakes.
this. They're still a big part of it. They're still really I remember when they came out.
Yeah.
I wasn't old enough to be around when the originals came out. None of
Yeah.
us were.
No.
So they hold something to much deeper with me. Those were the ones I was buying toys of when I was a kid.
But is that because they're good or because they have like a connection to you? Because I have the
Well,
same
they were
connection.
good. I
but
think
I
that
don't
they
think
were-
that they're good.
They were generally good. They were better than you're saying they are because you have this bias.
Can I throw something out there, Cole? I kind of agree and kind of disagree with you. I think they get the hate they deserve. I think they just don't get the appreciation they deserve.
That's true.
That I agree with.
They get criticism, which they do deserve criticism, and there were many things about them that were lackluster and over the top. So, okay, so those are contradictions, but the acting was lackluster and the CG was over the top.
Correct.
And
Yes.
here and there, but there are very many moments where it's like, damn, that's good.
Yeah.
There are very
Sure.
many, especially
It's a good
episode
story.
three.
That's
Yeah,
told
especially
poorly.
episode
three
three.
with the music and everything. Oh, it's
I
just
mean,
like,
Yeah.
they went overboard with a lot of things here and there, but I mean, like that one, oh man,
Well, as far as the acting, and I've said this before, probably even on the podcast, but it's like none of these people are bad actors. I mean, you've got freaking
No,
Natalie
they're
Portman,
A-listers, man.
What's his name? Liam Neeson,
Ewan McGregor.
Ewan
Ewan
McGregor.
McGregor, and
Christopher
like
Lee.
Okay, Ewan
These-
McGregor always did good in every one of them.
Yeah, I
Just
love
saying.
him. Yeah,
Just
definitely.
like all these people are like
Marry me.
such good actors. It's like if it was like one of them doing a piss poor job, it's like, well, that guy had an off day for 3 years, but it was all of them. So clearly, it was the directing and the fact that it was the first time that blue screen everything was a thing,
Right.
And so they weren't interacting with anything, and it's just super sterile.
Yeah, because no one knew how to do it yet.
I had the
I-
exact same I had the exact same thing as you guys were saying, like that connection with the prequels growing up, because those were the movies I was watching more often. Those were the ones around at the time. But like I do kind of disagree with Cole about the fact that they were really necessary films to watch, because in my eyes, always a good
Oh.
prequel is one that tells the story, tells a story in detail of one that you've already heard of and know how it ends, but adds something new to the mix. And so in that case, I kind of have to compare it to another very controversial prequel trilogy, The Hobbit, because
Oh God. Oh
set up
God.
for Lord of the Rings, but you also had a different story going, a completely different adventure story going on.
Very
And so,
different story though. I mean, like,
very different, and it added these, I guess these new twists to the story so that you couldn't watch the original trilogy the same way again. I don't get that with the Star Wars prequel trilogy. I don't watch the originals going, oh yeah, now I know why that's the case.
Now I
Yeah.
know why Darth
That's
Vader
true.
is such an asshole. It's because he was like this terrible acting, annoying little kid, and then he was a terrible acting, annoying 20-something douchebag, and then he killed them all. Women,
Okay.
children.
On that note,
It's like,
Dan,
does not give Darth Vader any justice, in my opinion.
On that note, I think I read somewhere, or maybe Nathan and I have talked about this before. Hayden Christensen and Cole. I don't know literally anything else that he has been in, so I have no idea about his actual acting talent.
he's been in a lot of
He was in a movie called 90 Minutes in Heaven a few years ago.
No idea what that is.
He's been in a bunch of soap operas, too.
but-
So.
I read somewhere and I heard somewhere that his reasoning for the way he acted was because he was trying to do kind of a callback to James Earl Jones's Darth Vader, and I think that was just a really poor choice because when we meet Darth Vader in A New Hope, he is already
Right.
a hardened general, not a general obviously, but he's a Sith Lord. He has been trained under
He's had that big
Palpatine.
turn.
Yeah, he has a reason for being the way he is. So for Christensen to try to be James Earl Jones is, I don't know, it's like trying to be an adult when you're a kid, like you try to put on daddy's shoes when your feet are way too small and you kind of trip over yourself. That's like how I see his acting. Like he tried really hard with what he thought would work and it just didn't work. And
And you can actually see that in all of the actors that have a earlier, later portrayal. Like even Ewan McGregor was mimicking Guinness, and I think the trouble with Hayden Christensen particularly is that he's more mechanical before he comes more physically mechanical.
Right.
James Earl Jones has one of the most dramatic acting voices ever, and Hayden Christensen was more mechanical than the man that's the machine in the original.
I think it's
So
interesting
it really
because
didn't hit.
he may not have talked the talk, but boy did he walk the walk. He mimicked like Vader's walk perfectly in Revenge of the Sith, and I've even seen video comparisons of this. Don't judge me.
No judgment here. You're on a
You're on a Star
episode with a bunch of Star Wars nerds. No judgment.
so
we just applaud you, if anything.
a quick acknowledgement of where Forrest, you were saying that you disagree with me and agree, or I think you were just saying you disagree that the prequels were a story that needed to be told, and this I find that pretty interesting coming from a guy who thinks Rogue One is one of the best movies. That is a story that absolutely did not need to be told
No.
at all.
Thank you.
Let's not
Oh
get
my
into Rogue
gosh.
One yet. Hold on. Let's stick to the prequels for a little bit. We'll get to that.
But Vader's origin and what happened before that is told. Episode
it's way
4,
more of an interesting story.
Listen, episode 4, when Luke first meets Obi-Wan, he is telling him, "Yes, I fought in the Clone Wars. I fought alongside your father, and Darth Vader killed your father." Okay, tell me that's not a story that needs to be told.
Yeah, it definitely is.
And that's bullshit.
I don't think either one needs to be told. I think it's
It does
interesting.
need to be told. The prequels needed to be told.
Being a kid and always wanting to hear about that stuff,
Yeah.
And so I agree with Cole. Like it definitely needed to be told. I just think it was like you saw the sausage being made, and it wasn't the way you wanted it to be told.
Right.
Like,
Well,
it's like when
to
you're
me,
a kid,
it's
you have,
like the
grand ideas of who your parents are, and then you find out like they really weren't the way you thought they were at all, and then you're disappointed. I'm not speaking out of first-hand experience, but
Sure.
like,
And honestly, it's not as perfectly crafted as J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter. When you read J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter, you listen. I'm going somewhere.
So we're on The Hobbit.
No,
and-
literally, by the time I read the 7th book, I was like, "Oh my God, she had this all planned out the whole time." How did you know what I mean?
Right.
But then when you
Yeah.
look at the Star Wars series, no,
Metachlorians.
he did not have the prequels planned out when he made the originals. Not entirely. No.
Yeah,
No,
and
obviously.
why did we decide to make Anakin Jesus? Like, he didn't have a father. He was made out of
Yeah,
midichlorians.
I mean, yeah,
I think that's
And
pretty
then he turns
unnecessary.
evil at the
Yeah.
end.
a little bit weird.
Yeah.
A little bit weird. I mean, interesting but weird.
Right. Now, one thing that really bothers me about the prequels is that, okay, think about the original trilogy and all the nerds that loved it, like before our time, even. Like, here's a movie about these guys swinging around space swords and flying in spaceships. It's like,
Those
now
were the
it-
real
it-
brave people who loved it first.
yeah.
Or it was cool.
Yeah,
That's
definitely.
it's Chris Hardwick, isn't it?
I don't know.
Anyway, yeah, think about the people, the nerds that loved that. And then it's like, if we're going to make prequels to that, maybe we should make it primarily about politics. What? No.
Yeah.
What?
Right.
It's,
And
I mean, it's not
actually,
even
I wanna-
sci-fi. It's space adventure
But it
movie.
is all
and
about
you're gonna make it about
politics.
politics. Well,
I want to go.
The
I wanna
originals
go
aren't.
straight. I want to go straight to actually one of Anakin's lines in Revenge of the Sith to, go off of what you were saying, Dan, when Anakin says, "If you're not with me, then you're my enemy."
Yeah.
Quoting George W. Bush almost directly, right there.
oh dear, yes.
I think it's then you're against me.
Yeah, Star Wars,
saying.
like politics and war go hand in hand. I mean, it's gonna happen.
They
Well,
do.
yeah, I mean it does, but it was so heavily.
It was
It was
too
just
much.
like so much. What's the word?
Pandering.
Yeah.
Exposition. Just like this is what's happening,
Yeah.
and it's happening because we're saying it's happening,
Yeah.
and now you're gonna watch it happening for a little
bit
bit. Then we're gonna
pandering
talk more
that
about
way.
it.
The thing for me, Dan, is like if we weren't already invested for 30 years of a wonderful trilogy, would you care? Would it keep you interested to watch? And I don't think it would pass that test, and that's what really kills
true.
it for me.
Yeah,
Okay.
It's too much fan
No,
service and not enough actual story.
I agree.
I think I'm just a bad movie critic then because I just love Star Wars so much, and so I feel like I'm going to enjoy
Right.
almost any Star Wars movie.
Right,
You know,
so-
it's like, could I watch this or Bridget
True.
Jones' Diary? Like, well, yeah, I'm going to watch Star Wars Episode
nobody
2.
wants to
You
watch
know,
Bridget
Yeah.
Jones's Diary.
well, that's what I'm saying.
Well,
Like,
well,
I
that's
love
kinda
a lot of
what
movies.
Nathan's saying, though.
I'd
It's like-
watch Star Wars, any of the Star Wars.
Yeah,
over,
any of
like,
them, right?
Tons of movies,
Like, come
yeah.
on.
Sure. Well, that's kind of what Nathan's saying, though. It's like you're very biased because it's a Star Wars movie. It's like if there wasn't that base amazing Star Warsness, then would you really care about the prequels? Or would it? I
Yes.
mean, would you?
Yeah, I love
Yes.
Obi-Wan.
No,
and,
because
you
the
know,
first
all
one would
that.
come out and you'd be like, "What is this? This is like talking about space
No.
politics," and nobody would care to watch the second one.
The
I
whole like
disagree.
the politics was a little bit confusing with the Federation, the opening, and all this all the dynamics.
It's not
that
that
go
hard
on.
to follow.
But it's still it's still
Well, it's
interesting.
the movie, at least all three of them. It's like it's confused at what it wants to be. It's like, is it a kids movie or is it about these convoluted political arguments and stuff? It's like I understand that now, but as a kid, it's just like, okay, when's this going to be done? When can we get back to more flashy colors?
I don't know.
Well, interestingly enough, George Lucas actually, as far as demographics are concerned, he was very specific about targeting the Phantom Menace as a kids movie, and so even though it did not succeed with, the older fans, it succeeded with the kids. So when you think about it, the Phantom Menace was a success in the way it was
Right.
supposed to be or intended.
Lots of merchandising. Yes.
Yeah.
Now
Well,
that brings up.
He did retain all the merchandising rights, right?
Yeah, he did, which is amazing and awesome. Now, that is a good segue into Jar Jar Binks versus Ewoks, the two most pandered things in all of Star
you mean like
Wars history.
basically both of those things were what's the comic relief? They were supposed to be sort of
Well,
the comic
everybody
relief.
said that the Ewoks were like childish and stupid, and like
But
it
they-
was too pandery to the younger audience, and then
Yeah.
you got freaking.
No, you need that element. I think
That's
you
that's
do.
the Star Wars thing. It's like it's bringing yes,
comedy,
awful,
yeah,
Exactly,
awful
yeah.
war,
But everybody
an
had
awful
comedy.
wartime stuff going
Sure.
on, but there are these actual
This-
life forms
yeah.
that exist, and this is how they're
It's a
handling it.
completely creative element. Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
I
there's
mean-
Are
billions
you
of
defending
planets
Jar
out
Jar
there.
Binks here?
No,
I'm defending him. I'm defending him.
I'm
yeah.
all for Ewoks.
more or less. The
I'm just
Ewoks.
saying these are
And
the
yes,
two things that
Ewoks
fans
were
have a problem
ridiculous
with.
and dorky and like.
I love
I mean,
them.
they were just screaming like, you know, like, but so were
I
the
mean,
Jawas.
they're midgets in bear costumes.
So were the Jawas in Episode 4. They were like making weird noise, and it's like that's just a Star Wars thing to have these like weird
Right.
little creatures all the time.
Totally.
And Jar Jar Binks, way over the top, too much, too
Yes.
far. He's annoying. Didn't
It's just
need
like
him.
so ham-fistedly. This is for the kids because it's stupid fart noises and freaking Jamaican bunny alien guy.
Jamaican bunny alien. Yeah, he did sort of have Jamaican.
I think it's funny how, despite how I guess disliked the Ewoks were by so many people, they were the guys that got the old cartoon, the TV movies.
Right. Which went so well.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
something that I think is interesting about the Ewoks is like everybody sees them as like these cute little cuddly things. It's like they captured the three heroes and they were gonna freaking eat them. And then you see these like these stormtrooper helmets. They devoured those stormtroopers. They're not as cute and cuddly as you
Yeah.
think.
Think
they
of piranhas.
These
like
are
little
man-eaters.
Bear piranhas.
Right.
I think it was just a limitation of the medium, which was that they had whatever the politically correct term for little people is.
Midgets.
Yeah,
Midget still stands.
as actors, and it had they maybe had another way of carrying that out. I think it's clear that they're meant to be fierce, warriors, but their size gives them, that image, and
Right.
it is something that I think is a message that is throughout the Star Wars films, which is, appearances can be deceiving, and even the apparently weak people can be strong.
Yeah, absolutely. The weakness is strength, and that's a Star Wars theme
Yeah.
for real.
Yeah.
Because I mean, Luke saying, "I won't fight you," to Vader, and just refusing to fight him,
Yeah,
and that's
in the face of an overwhelming, obviously military superior force, you have these Stone Age, midgets that are fighting, and so
It shows
yeah,
the,
I mean,
the
it's-
difference in technology with C-3PO too. They think he's a god. They don't
Right.
understand this.
right.
yeah,
Which, yes, and I will defend Ewoks all day long. However, it doesn't make sense how they're able to take out. I mean, stormtroopers were already worthless, but they're throwing rocks at them and they're falling down.
Can I
That's a
just?
little bit.
I was watching episode 4 the other night, and I think it's hilarious because it's an ongoing and running, long-standing, obvious joke how awful the aim of the stormtroopers is,
Yep.
and yet Alec Guinness
I
is
watched that
quoted
same
as
video.
saying, "Yeah, I watched. Well, I didn't watch the video. I watched the movie the other
Okay.
night, and he's like, these blaster marks too accurate for sand people.
Right.
Only stormtroopers are so precise.
Right.
I'm like, wait a minute.
Well, yeah, and then
It's
when
hilarious.
they're getting attacked,
they're not precise at all.
when they're getting attacked
they
on the
miss
ship,
everybody.
they get away, and then Leia says they let us escape. Like they let us get away.
Well, yeah, no.
So,
That's
I
when
mean,
they're
that-
shooting at them from the Star Destroyer, right? Okay, but when they're in the halls of the Tantive 4 in the beginning of episode 4, and they're shooting and nobody's dying, like
Right.
barely anybody's dying. The stormtroopers have like these awful aim
I don't think they hit a single person until
Ever.
Leia in episode 6.
when it's in episode 4 when they like set to stun,
Right.
and then they're like, she'll be okay.
Which that was like a giant spread out like wave thing that had to hit her.
Yeah, had to. Yeah. I just think it's a topic worth.
So does anybody have any
about.
defense for Jar Jar Binks?
No.
I do.
merchandise.
All right, I'm gonna disconnect Forrest right now. Go ahead, Forrest.
Actually, okay, well, not entirely, except the fact that it's not that I hate him, I just don't really care for him. I think there is a significant difference with that. My ears don't feel like they're bleeding if I'm listening to him, but I think I could have
Why?
done without him too. What's funny though also is the fact that canonically Jar Jar Binks has been reduced to a circus performer on Coruscant after Return of the Jedi.
Right.
So this dude who literally gave Palpatine all the power he needed,
Right.
in episode 2, is just now this circus performer after the saga.
The one who
So
moved to vote to
I
give him
feel like
emergency
even
powers.
Disney is aware of just how unpopular he is, and they're just like, all right, we'll put him here, and
Right.
that's where he will stay.
Which how big of an FU from George Lucas in his like 100th special edition remake of these movies to have to include Jar Jar Binks or at least Naboo in episode 6 at the end when they're showing all the the planets that they're flying
Right.
over and showing, you can hear
You
him go, "We so free." It's like, George, why do you hate us?
It's like when he went back and
Well
remastered
said.
the originals when he put like ridiculously like Brontosaurus type
Right.
things walking
Things
in front of
just
the
walking
the
in the way.
frame. Just like, okay, where's Luke and Ben? Oh, okay, there they are.
They're there, but we have the technology
Why?
to do this. So let's shove it in there.
Why?
But I enjoyed like the whole Gungan race. You know, I enjoyed the fight scene with the droids at the end, and I enjoyed seeing like the
yeah.
fish stuff and the underwater because you don't really see that element in Star Wars too much, the underwater element. So it was nice to
Sure.
kind of have that get brought in. I think.
So, Brad, one of the things not a lot of people maybe have any knowledge of is there was a PC game based on the flora and fauna of Naboo, and it was kind of like a simulation style game, and
I
that
think
was
I
probably
played
my
it.
best
I
memory.
think I had it.
Yeah, that was probably my best memory of the Naboo stuff. Was like, again, a lot of the best parts of the trilogies, the prequel trilogies, are the video games and derivative media.
Pod racing, and I had a computer game for it was just a Phantom Menace
Yeah.
video game. That was great. I really enjoyed that.
So needless to say, the merchandising was very well done for,
Oh, yeah.
for those movies. Yeah, it was. I mean, so
Yeah, they even get a joke made of it in Spaceballs. That's how prolific
Yeah.
it was.
Which
You know,
May Schwartz be with you.
and actually, just before we get too far away from Jar Jar, I think we need to also consider the fact that there were so many characters in the Phantom Menace that were just like they were presented as stereotypes. You know, Watto was the elephant-nosed Italian.
Right.
You know, Newt Gunray and his companion Rune Hacko were Chinese people.
Yep.
It just, and Jar Jar Binks was African American.
Right.
It's just all these different
Some sort
characters
of it. Yeah.
Yep.
being these stereotypes that really just degrades the movie in my eyes. And
I've said the same thing. There's definitely a lot of racial strangeness going on.
I mean,
in the prequels.
Watto even does this number while talking.
Yeah, the
There's,
Ooh, I'm a greedy
you know,
Jew
two
that won't
fingers
give
and
you
the thumb,
anything.
Yeah.
yeah.
No,
There's
so
actually a
real.
callback to it in The Force Awakens when Han is being confronted by the two gangs. So
Yeah.
Wait, what?
How so?
What is it you're saying? Like stereotyping?
yeah, there's one of the gangs is very stereotypically like
Scottish?
Korean,
Oh.
and the other
yeah.
is very stereotypically Scottish.
Yeah, yeah.
But are they like portraying
Conja Club.
like negative
I think
things toward that group?
Well, No,
That they're
and
gangs?
I don't know that. I mean, I think Watto and Jar Jar are probably negative portrayals because of their stereotypical behavior.
Right.
But I think there's always kind of a nugget of this cultural appropriation, which I don't
Well,
think is necessarily.
even like the
Right.
Newt Gunray or what? No, what are their names? The two Chinese alien
You
things.
have it.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. I mean, they're like having this trade dispute and being like the people who
Yeah.
aren't gonna deal with that. Like, it's very. I mean, everything in those movies is like relevant to society and what's going on in the world. However,
Maybe
it's
that's why
done
they're
a
so
little-
good because they just connect with that like inner psyche of the pulse of America at the time. You know, they just connect with that and it draws everyone in.
Yeah. I don't know.
I want to go there, but
What do you got next? Because
well, let's talk
Yeah, what's
about Rogue
next?
One a little bit.
whoa,
Yeah.
we're not gonna do that.
We're gonna talk about them. Okay, well, let's start with The Force Awakens. When The Force Awakens,
Can I start? Can I start? On the
Yeah,
first
sure.
one?
Oh,
Just give your overall of The Force Awakens.
I want to defend the point that yes, it was a reboot,
Mm-hmm.
and yes, it was very similar to Episode 4. I would agree too much so. With I think some of us have expressed that in the past. It's like the same movie, or quote unquote, it's like the same movie as Episode 4. Yeah, they probably could have done without a planet that is a gun,
so
because
let
I mean
down.
that's been done.
I was so let down.
The Death Star the Star Killer base thing. Yeah, not the coolest. The multiple X-wing passes to firing at the core to blow it up. A little bit
what were they even thinking?
too much. But overall, I mean, yes, it was supposed to be. J.J. Abrams meant.
Is it a
for
soft
it.
reboot? Absolutely.
Yes, it
Is
meant-
it
it was-
amazing soft reboot? Absolutely.
Yeah, it was meant to be a reboot.
yeah. I personally love like the Types and Shadows and like all that recall stuff.
Yeah.
Like you could have basically repackaged any of the original trilogy, and because of that fan service element, like I would have loved it. You know, you could have even given it the same name and just said, "Yeah, we're taking your money again, stupid." And I would have been
Exactly.
I mean, I think
Right.
I think the lore.
regardless. I really do feel like it was a compelling story, and it's one of those that when you walk out of the theater, you do feel like that's going to be one that's going to be around for a few decades.
Yeah.
And is it not the it's the movie that made you realize the Millennium Falcon is a character?
Right.
The Millennium
Exactly.
Falcon is not just a ship. It is one of the main
And
characters.
could they have reintroduced it any better than they did?
No,
they
and she's
could
running
not.
past it, and she goes, "That's a piece of junk." And then the ship she's going
garbage
for
will do.
blows up.
Yes.
Oh, that'll do. Yeah, and
Which
that's
in
my
itself
favorite
is
scene
a
is when she's
callback
flying
to
it.
the original trilogies.
Yeah,
because
Yeah,
if you recall, Leia
Luke-
is
yeah, they say
bad
this
mouth
hunk of
and
junk.
shit.
Everybody
And
did.
so it's everybody
my
else is.
favorite. It's my favorite character. I think the Millennium Falcon is my favorite.
At that
character.
point in the theaters, like everybody applauded.
Everybody,
It was-
yeah.
it was so
the Millennium
glorious.
Falcon is a character, and then when she's like flying it through the wreckage of that Star Destroyer,
Yeah,
and then she like
that's pretty
flips the
bad.
throttle, and the thing flips over, and because the guns,
Now we're gonna spend the next 2 hours with Cole recapping the whole movie.
gun is stuck, and like Finn shoots the Tie Fighter, and then she like pulls back up. Oh my god,
How'd the movie start, Cole?
that's the best part of that
Start
movie. I think The Force Awakens is phenomenal, honestly.
All right, Brad. I know you were trying to chime in there with something that is wrong.
I was just trying to
information.
think of like the first time viewer, you know, like when someone thinks like, oh, I'm going to watch Star Wars, and they think Episode 7. You know, these young kids that are watching it for the first time. I'm just trying to like imagine that concept, because I think the lore is just so strong that you almost just have this, you know, bigger image of Star Wars before you even see 7. Even as a kid, because you're like, I want to go see Star Wars, and then your parents are like, well, you know, here's Star Wars.
Yeah.
And so I don't, you know, I'm trying to finish my thought.
So you're saying that kids will be more let down with The Force Awakens than frickin' Episode
No,
1?
I think they could have done more creative things, like instead of just, you know,
course.
repeat 4, because the lore is so strong. They're going to like have this story told, and they can do new things instead of.
Right. Well, the thing is, no matter what, I mean, whoever took the reins of that thing,
Yeah.
there were going to be like 50% of the people were going to hate it, 50% of the people were going to love it. No matter what happened, they were like, it's Disney. They're like, let's play it a little bit safe here.
Exactly. Totally.
I mean,
totally.
we're coming out of the
Financial
woodwork here.
decision.
We gotta,
Financial decision.
show what we can do. Let's give everybody all the nostalgia that they want. I mean, the prequels came out and it was like, it's not enough like Star Wars, and then The Force Awakens comes out and they're like, it's too much like Star Wars. It's
Yeah,
like, what do you
fair
people
enough.
want? Hey, Dan Smots here. I'm taking a second to interrupt myself talking to talk about myself because, you know, I don't get paid a penny for the hours and hours that I put into creating this show for you guys in your greedy little ears, and I've got a family to feed. To make that happen, I run my own media business called Goulash Media. If you have a need in anything from video production to graphic design to audio production and beyond, you can get it all for a painfully fair price at Goulash Media. In video, I do weddings, music videos, commercials, pageants, plays, etc., etc., etc. For design, I do photo editing, album art, logos, branding, business cards, merchandise, you name it. For audio, I do engineering, production, editing, jingles, and, well, podcasts. So if you've got a media need of any kind, or if you'd just like to give a little something back and help keep my children fed, check out all the endless options at my website, goulashmedia.net. That's goulash, Goulash, media.net, where we cater to the little guy with the big vision. Okay.
So I will go out there and say I definitely feel now that I am thinking about it, I definitely feel like 7 is higher than 4 in my book, because when I go back and
I
I
put it
watch
there too.
4, if I remove myself from the mindset of, you know, just the love I have for the Star Wars trilogy, if I just watch it as a standalone movie, there's definitely a point where you're like, that's where they ran out of money. Like it really slams the brakes on hard.
saying
And
4 does
if you
that?
sit
Yeah,
down and
I
you
feel
watch
like
that
that.
and you're paying attention to the story arc,
You're not wrong.
you see those.
Yeah, where's the high
you
point?
see
Exactly.
those
Where's the high
references.
point?
No, Jabba the Hutt is back in now, so you don't have that feeling anymore.
Exactly.
They had the
I love
technology to make it
Jabba.
work and make it work as poorly as they possibly could.
Wait, when you say that, like, when you're saying, oh, that's where they ran out of money, are you talking about The Force Awakens? Or
He's talking about
No.
No, I'm talking about A New Hope.
oh, okay.
or Star Wars.
Yeah.
Let's call it Star
That-
Wars because that's what it's actually
that-
called.
Star Wars.
It was retitled
Sure.
later.
I can get it.
That's totally clear and easy when we're talking about, you know, multiple Star Wars movies.
Okay, fine.
For me,
I
for me,
go ahead, Forrest. Sorry.
oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I was just gonna say, for me, like, I mean, I suppose we'll probably talk more in detail about that later. But for me, what really slams the brakes for me on The Force Awakens, the one character in the movie that just grates on me, that I can't stand watching, even though I love the actor and I think the actor is a great person. John Boyega as Finn. I cannot stand him.
Why?
You racist?
He is the movie's
Because
Jar
he's
Jar
black?
Binks. No. He grates on me. He annoys the crap out of me. He acts like a Marvel movie character that stumbled into the Star Wars galaxy somehow. He is an insult. I am sorry. Not
Personally, I find
Forrest, are you
find
mad that
his
there's
character-
a female as the lead character too?
Actually, I love that. I think Daisy Ridley was fantastic.
She was.
She was the best part of the movie.
Yeah, I'm just kidding.
Which is why they shouldn't have done that for Rogue One afterward. So,
Yeah, but
Yeah.
we're gonna get into that in the
But-
bonus.
Jeanette, you were gonna say something at the same time as Forrest.
Yeah.
What was that?
Oh, I was just gonna say, well, first to remark on what Forrest was saying, I know what you're saying about John Boyega's character, and I feel like my mic went out.
You're good.
We can still hear
Can you
you.
hear me? Okay, I couldn't hear myself, so I was confused. But
With-
I get what you're saying about John Boyega's character being kind of fan servicey, but I like that part about him because I feel like if I were in a Star
Yeah.
Wars movie, I would
Right.
act exactly the way he did. Like, holy shit, it's Han Solo. I want to
Right.
be your friend.
Yeah,
think
when
it's
he calls him
realistic.
Solo.
Right.
You just call me
Um,
Solo.
I'm perfectly fine with The Force Awakens. I love The Force Awakens. I'm honestly kind of scared about The Last Jedi because
Oh, we're gonna get there. Save it.
I understand. Well, I
Don't save it.
understand
Go
the criticisms behind comparing The Force Awakens with A New Hope, but to me, it's much more of just an homage, and I feel like it's Star Wars that was created by people that are like us, you
Yeah,
know.
yes.
And it's created for people that
Yeah.
are like us, and it's just entertaining for everyone else.
Sure.
And so that's why I like it, because yeah, it is a lot like A New Hope, and I think that that's the point. Is it's for our nostalgia, for our memories, for our childhood to kind of start over again.
Sure. Now, yeah, I'd say let's just take a break from the new stuff. We can just wait on the Rogue One stuff so we have enough for the bonus content. Let's jump into The Last Jedi. I mean, what is your concern about it? Because I have reason to believe otherwise.
I'm freaking excited about it, but my main concern is if it is a lot more like Empire rather than a new story, that'll just add more fuel to the fire of like, oh, well, they're
Yes.
just recreating the original trilogy. And so I am nervous about that.
It should have nothing to do with Empire.
no.
Like, nothing. It should have no callbacks.
I agree. I think that they would be
mean,
shooting themselves in the foot if they did that,
except
which is
that-
why I think that they won't.
Judging on the merchandising, okay, I'm the kind of person when this movie's coming out, like when Force Awakens came out, I was like, roving Walmarts, like looking around,
do
being
the
like,
same.
what Lego sets are they releasing?
Yeah.
I go
What's
with
this
the
gonna
figures.
show me about the new movie? All they have is a remade like AT-AT type thing. They have a it's like, but it has like spikes on its feet, so I'm like, oh, I bet that's their way of getting around, getting tripped by a cable. You know what I mean? Like it has spikes on the front of its legs, so you can kind of infer like, well, what is that thing gonna do in the movie?
What terrain is this going to be on?
Yeah. Well,
So, Cole, in the way that you go to Walmart and look at the toys, which I find that be very interesting, because it's not necessarily something that I do, but it's definitely like you're right on. One of the things I do with a lot of movies, and not just Star Wars movies, but after, especially if I saw the movie trailers as I was anticipating the movie, after I see a movie, I go back and I watch those theatrical trailers because the trailers are always structured in a way that is different than the film, and oftentimes using sound effects that are nowhere in the film. So I like to analyze the structure of it and see how it actually laid out according to the film. Well, one of the things that I'm noticing about the new trailers for the upcoming movie is I see a lot of elements that when you extract them from their format in the trailer, they do correlate a lot with episode 5. And I think we are actually going to see a lot of parallels. I don't know that it's
I think you're probably right, at least to some
Yeah.
degree.
I see a ton of parallels, at least when it comes to major story arc components and some thematic elements as far as like uh, worlds and scenery and stuff like that.
I mean, if they make the AT-ATs like a, oh look, AT-ATs are a thing
Surprise.
again, like that's just no, man. Like that's what Empire
I mean,
did.
we shoved them into Rogue One for no reason, so there's no
Yeah.
reason
But
to
but
make
but
that
but they
thing
had a
again.
tan side panel instead. That was the difference.
Right. Now,
In
here's
Rogue One.
why.
C-3PO had a red arm.
Yeah, why?
and-
Right. Yeah,
so,
well,
you
I
know.
mean, but that's
Here's
that's
why
okay.
I don't think it's going to be Empire Strikes Back Part 2. Have any of you heard of the new trilogy that they hired Ryan Johnson to make?
Yes.
Yes. So here's the thing, like Disney saw, well, they're having J.J. Abrams back for 9, and they saw what Ryan Johnson did with The Last Jedi, and they were like, we don't know what you're going to do. We're not that concerned about it. Here, make an entire new trilogy with new characters, new everything. Somewhere else in the universe, do that. Like, they had that much faith in him to
So he
be
must have
like,
been
do
innovative.
all of it. Do everything from now to the future. Like, that makes me excited for The Last Jedi, because, like,
Yeah.
and even Mark Hamill in interviews, everybody's like, so what can we expect? And he's like, the best thing that I can say is the line from the trailer that I say, which is, it's not going to be what you expect, or it's not going to go how you expect, or something like that. I'm like,
If
"Hey,
Mark,
I
if
don't
it's
get
got Mark
giddy about
Hamill's
things, but
endorsement,
this.
I mean, if it's got Mark Hamill's
Well, I'm-
endorsement, it can't be that. It can't be anything but
no,
great.
I am
Yeah, and
incredibly excited about it, and my seeing the parallels does not detract from my excitement at all.
Right.
Like I almost think they're critical components that like you have to hit this story beat to make it feel thematically similar. And the things that I'm seeing is Rey went off to train with a master just like Luke did.
Yeah.
Rey is
And
facing
yeah.
conflict between light and dark just like Luke did. Rey is
Because
going
those
to
are
be
central to every person.
exactly
Everybody's
exactly.
gonna have those, yeah.
She's facing the choice of choosing the long path or the easy one, and also the battle of Hoth. I see in the trailer, I see basically those ATs being paralleled with the A-wing speeders and everything else. That you see those things that drag along the ground and stir up the red dust. I feel like that battle is going to correlate with the Battle of Hoth. I just see a lot of components that I don't think they're direct rips by any stretch of the imagination. I think it's going to be its own unique story with a lot of interesting and unexpected turns. But I do see a lot of the same story arc beats that are going to be hit, and that's actually not a turnoff to me. It's something that I find to be very exciting.
It turns you on.
Right.
And correction,
Yeah.
Dan, about what, according to Ryan Johnson, anyway, when he and what was it, Kathleen Kennedy, the
Disney
the
chick.
people down in, what's that?
The Disney lady.
The Disney lady, yeah. When he got to sit down with those people, and they were like, "Well, we really loved working with you." He's like, "I wish we can think of some way that we can, keep you around." This was literally Ryan's suggestion. Like, how about you let me make a trilogy? And they're like, yeah, sure thing,
So that was his
absolutely. So
suggestion.
actually, it was Ryan's suggestion directly.
Well, if they went with it, I mean, you know that they're going to do everything that they possibly can to sustain this and milk it for all it's worth, like they are with Marvel and all that. Like, which brings up another question: like, are any of you guys concerned about all these spin-off movies and like a new trilogy? There was a part of me that when they started announcing these, I was like, oh, you're just gonna like dilute it, and then I'm like, I'm only gonna live once. What am I gonna do? Not go see it? Like the prequels, I don't like them, but it didn't make me like the original trilogy any less. So they put out a bad movie. Okay, well, I'll still watch the next one, and if I don't like that, I'll still love the Star Wars that I know. So who cares?
Good podcast.
Yeah,
Right,
fodder.
it's kind of like what Nathan said, where it's like they can literally title it "I'm just gonna steal your money, stupid," and you'd still
Fine,
go see
take
it.
it.
It's a Star Wars.
Take it.
Gotta know what
Yeah.
Here's a
happens.
big question too, because they said it was going to be a new trilogy with brand new characters, brand new story. So it's
A TV
obviously
show
not gonna
too.
continue. Yeah, I heard about that.
This isn't
so
the
it's
first
not,
time
it's
that's
not gonna
happened.
continue
Well, like
the-
a live-action TV show.
Yeah, it's not going to continue the Skywalker saga. It's not. They're not going to be episode numbers. So I'm like, well then, you know, are all three of these films going to follow the title A Star Wars
Right.
Story?
I wondered the same thing.
Are those spin-offs going to be canceled altogether? Like, what's all that about, you know?
I don't know, but I don't care.
Yeah.
Take my
Future-
money. Let's
future
do
is
this.
uncertain.
Yeah, I'm not worried
fine.
about it.
Yeah.
I'm not worried about diluting the brand or anything. Like I think the Skywalker saga is obviously always going to be like the central
Primary.
portion of what makes Star Wars Star
The
Wars.
base.
And yeah, and I think if you're going the way that I approach Star Wars, especially since Disney purchased the rights to it, is it's basically a collection of mythologies, and I think you have to look at it as basically different storytellers taking the reins and telling you a story. And as far as each of the trilogies are concerned, I think they all play a part in telling the Skywalker story, and all these others are just bonus to me. Like,
Right.
I don't. If you look at Rogue One, even from a filmmaking standpoint, it was laid out entirely differently from all the others. It was not set out to be a Star Wars film on the same level, and
Right.
I think you look at this movie as an additional, you know, storyline of different characters, you know, parallel or, you know, legends, and it doesn't dilute it all to me. It just enhances the mystique that is the grand mythology of the entire Star Wars universe.
Right, and even if they go off the rails and it sucks, so what? Let them do it. Like, watch it if it's good. Don't watch it if it doesn't. If it isn't.
One of the things I loved from my childhood was reading all of the Star Wars novels, and they were not internally consistent, and it didn't bug me because
Right.
I think when you consume that much material from varied authors, you recognize, like, some people see the story a little bit differently. If I were to ask two of you to tell me about the same event that you experienced, you would tell me different details. And so I'm not thrown off by that. I just recognize you guys recount it differently, or maybe you embellish it more.
Right. It's just like you said with it's like the episode numbers. Numbering them episode whatever should be a continuation of the Skywalker saga, just like you said. So that's
Right.
the central storyline, is the Skywalker saga. And as you alluded to, the books, the comics, all of those, there are a myriad of installments. And so many of them have absolutely nothing to do with the Skywalker saga, really. I mean, they tie in here and there, but overall, they're just kind of in the same universe, told from different perspectives about different characters altogether. And those were interesting reads. They were fun. They're good. They just add to the Star Wars experience, but they're not central. So if they want to make movies about that kind of thing, if they want to make another trilogy related to the Star, like, I'm gonna enjoy it. I'm
Right.
gonna enjoy it. But it isn't central. It can still be canon. It just doesn't. It doesn't. They don't have to be central to the Skywalker story.
Yep.
But
All right.
that is
when
the primary
Cole, you were
one,
talking,
for sure.
you were talking about when you were a kid playing with toys, and I'm sure all of us have experiences of playing with either action figures or, you know, the
I do
toys.
today, personally.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. I have memories from earlier this day. You know, when you were a kid, surely sometimes you reenacted things you saw on the screen, but
Made up your
I'm
own
sure you
story.
came up with plenty of other things that were unique to you.
Right.
And
We just make stuff up, make up entire
Your own canon.
stories.
Make up your own planet.
right. And one of the really great opportunities I see presented in all these other stories is the ability to tell stories that maybe are inclusive to other people. Like, one of the downsides of the original trilogy and the prequels, I think, is that there were really only two strong female characters, three if you consider Mon Mothma a character worth counting. But
No.
and
She was
there
strong.
a black man. There was a black man, you know,
Right.
and most of
He was a
them were-
player.
Exactly. So, I mean, you have a lot of opportunities to include people that maybe they can see themselves in these roles, that they play a role in the story. And, you know, not just from a social justice point of view, but I mean, it's exciting because Star Wars means so much to all of us.
Yeah.
And why would we not want other people to feel included in the story?
Right.
My problem with Finn was not that he was black.
Say it all you want.
Forrest, you're racist. man.
All right,
I
so
mean,
how do we think
well-
Leia's going to die? I mean, obviously she's going to. In
Right.
the
If they don't-
in the
oh.
trailer, it looks like Kylo Ren is like. I mean, they make it seem like this, so it's probably not going to happen. But it's like he's flying towards something, then she's like looking up, all expectingly, and then he fires some things. I don't think that's going to happen because they showed it in the trailer, and if it happens that way, I'm going to be pissed because it's just nothing. But she's got to
can
die
they?
somehow.
But
Well,
it
honestly,
wasn't
even if-
planned. So
it wasn't planned, but all of her scenes were shot for this movie.
I know. So they should be able to use
Mm-hmm.
it without doing like what Rogue One did and make a ridiculous CG character and then fabricate her end.
Yeah, they've already said they're not going to do that.
Thank God, because
Yeah.
that would be awful.
Yeah,
because
but
Rogue
they have to
One
kill
did
her
it
between this
awful.
movie and the next one.
Just kill her off like Natalie Portman and just get her pregnant, because that's all it takes, you know.
I think she's past that
too
point,
old.
let's be
Oh,
honest.
Yeah.
okay, never mind.
I don't know.
I don't know how that
Honestly,
works.
though, it would make more sense for her to die from labor at like 60 something
Right.
years old
Yeah,
than like
that's
20 something Natalie Portman.
Right? Like prime birthing age. But anyways, not
No
prime. That's
disrespect
not
to
even
anybody
prime.
who has had a young wife die of birth, but
Trigger warning. Trigger warning.
I don't know. I kind of hope they do something with her end more like. I don't really think it should be a big. They did that with Han Solo.
right,
They did it with him. They had it set, like big close up death scene.
Right.
I don't want that with Leia. I think with Leia it should be more like
A ship blowing up.
something happens
she went back to
and
Alderaan. And
it's more
died.
like, oh,
That would be fitting.
this is the news. She didn't make it. You know what I mean? Like,
well, yeah,
and then we have a moment where it's like, oh god, we didn't even get to say goodbye.
right.
With Han Solo,
Yeah.
you kind of knew.
Yeah.
And
Well,
you
that's
got
the
to
thing.
say
It's like
goodbye.
they have to kill off all three of these main characters because they're not going to be alive in real life forever, obviously. So, and Han Solo wanted to be dead in Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
So,
Just saying,
yeah,
like,
they have to figure out a way that makes it not cheesy. Like the first one, Han Solo dies. The next one, Princess Leia dies. The third one, Luke dies.
I don't think that they should kill Luke sequentially like that because
long
they
as he's
had
alive.
to. Right? Yeah. I mean, like, I don't know. Just saying. With Leia, I think it shouldn't.
They
be,
might not have been planning to kill Leia.
With
originally.
Leia, it should be something like where we didn't get to say goodbye because we didn't get to say goodbye to Carrie Fisher either. I mean, and we got to with Han Solo. It was a big thing. It was a big
Right.
ordeal. We kind of all knew as it was happening, this is what's going to happen. And then when he was the lightsaber was ignited, and it's like, that's a big thing. That's
Right.
huge. It's right there. It's a close up. With Leia, I think it should happen off screen. Honestly,
I agree.
Too. I was telling Dan this the other day when when you watch an interview of Harrison Ford and his involvement in The Force Awakens.
This is what we talk about at church.
We, we talk all sorts of offensive Christian stuff. But no, in an interview he says, like, I was reluctant, of course, to come back, but when I read the script and saw what a good story it was, I couldn't pass this up. And I'm like, that's bullcrap, Harrison. As soon as you found out you were going to die in this movie, you were like, let's do it.
That could be true for him. Not to say anything bad about the story, 'cause I think the story's great. But okay, so any other thoughts on Leia's demise? Inevitable.
I thought in the Last Jedi trailer, when we see Kylo Ren looking like he's about to blow Leia up, even if they showed that in the trailer, I would have been completely fine with it because it would have been of no surprise to me whatsoever,
Right.
given Carrie Fisher's demise. It would have been like,
Yeah, they have to do it somehow.
Yeah, this is what's going down. So, there
I
you
think
go.
that's kind of the big change here is I know that most, if not all, of the film was written and filmed by the point, but with Han Solo's character, yeah, we all knew he was going to die, but it wasn't because the character had died, and I think they will tastefully show respect to her and probably show some sort of like I guess honor to the actor in the film, and I don't think it's going to be something that's I don't think it's going to be half-hearted, and I don't think it's going to be played up
Better
too
movie.
much. So
Yeah.
I don't know exactly how it's going to happen, but I feel like whatever it is, it'll be tasteful and appropriate because I think beyond all, they want to show respect to Carrie Fisher, and I think that's going to happen.
Sure. Real quick, on that note, kind of on that note about Leia, and we got to wrap this one up pretty quickly, but I have issues with the fact that Leia is Luke's twin sister, and she
Still is not a Force user?
She sensed they brought her back for the Force Awakens. She sensed him, and so she has like Force sensitivity and all that. But she has never done a freaking thing with the Force other than knowing that Luke was dangling out the bottom of the spaceship.
Because
This is
in
one
the
of the
books and
things
in
that
the
I-
other
Yeah.
stories, she became a Jedi, just like
Yes.
She
Yeah.
was a Jedi too in the
That's
books.
one of the
Of
things
course,
that I
Carrie
really
Fisher, the way
agree.
she looks, it'd be really weird
Yeah.
to see her wielding a lightsaber
Wow.
and jumping around. But
I mean, they
One
took
of the things
liberties.
I really regret about the fact that they waited so long to do these, and
Right.
the fact that they basically pulled a Star Trek franchise and erased all the history.
yeah,
The thing that I really regret about that is that, like Cole was getting at, Leia was a badass Force user in
Right.
the extra books, and it was like, even as a young boy, it was incredibly like motivating for me to see her like just kicking butt, and
Right.
she does it so well, and it really does
now she
make you feel
stands
like
around
this-
in a room.
yeah, it's like the Skywalker family is really special, you know, and it makes you feel like, I don't know, excited to learn more about, you know, Han and Leia's children, which you do, and like it engages you in the Skywalker family as a whole. But plus, like I don't know, it's just so cool to see not just one, you know, of the Skywalker twins become Jedi Master, but then see the other and her adventures and to read all
If
about
only.
that, and the thing that, yeah, and they basically just made her a Mon Mothma in the
Exactly.
ones that we see now. And
Yep.
she's a general, and she's got a lot of military prowess, and that's admirable as well. But yeah, it's just not the same as just watching her become a Jedi and
Right.
to
Well, it's like she's a general now. She's way more badass, like
Mhm.
by her credentials, but you don't see her do anything.
Yeah,
Like she
that's-
was way more badass in the original trilogy.
It's on
Right.
the directors, I think. It's on the directors.
with her bare hands, she choked this massive thug of a sea slug. You
With a
know,
chain.
like
Slug Thug.
yeah,
Mhm.
but
like that.
even considering it was a chain, that was with her bare hands, and I mean they
R.I.P.
couldn't do much with the character because of the animatronic.
In memoriam,
And-
Jabba the Hutt.
Yeah. So they couldn't do much with the character, but again, in the novels, like the Hutt family is made out to be a lot more menacing, and
Yeah.
in the novels, she takes on a lot of other formidable foes that are really intense. Not the least of which is Thrawn and Xizor, and those are characters which are really cold, really calculated, really they're on the same tier as Jabba the Hutt, and so to see her strangle him with a chain with her bare hands, and when she's been degraded and she still comes out on top, and then to basically see her retire comfortably into an armchair, it just doesn't really
Can I just say
Maybe
real
this
quick
isn't.
that I've seen just like some parallels between like this and Game of Thrones with Sansa and Arya, because I wish that they would have played
Don't
Leia up too.
spoil Game of Thrones.
I'm not
Friggin'
gonna.
A,
I'm not gonna
man.
spoil. I'm not gonna
The
spoil
Hobbit,
anything. But I'm just saying.
Harry Potter,
Because you
now
have
Game of
these
Thrones.
twins, and you have like this. You have Luke,
Could we
who's
be
kind of
any
the
more
warrior.
nerdy?
Hey, you have Luke, who's like this warrior, and like Leia is the one who gets degraded. And she has to come back from all this. Yeah, they totally could have played up Leia more. She took a different path. She went more political. She tried to do things differently through the Senate and tried to get. She was playing the bigger game while Luke was kind of fighting his way through and training by himself.
You mean just Luke was hanging out on a rock? Are we talking about the Force Awakens or what?
I'm sorry, I kind of went all directions there. It's a big universe.
Which in the Force Awakens, I think even Han Solo doesn't get a hugely fair shake. It's like, we got divorced,
Right.
and now I'm a dude who does the same thing as I did
Separated.
before, and
Separated.
now I'm
Right.
dead. The end.
Yeah, maybe this isn't a fair comparison since these movies were really close together. But like, notice how Padme was in so many action scenes in the first two movies, driving some of that action even, and then in the third movie, she's just barefoot and pregnant the entire time. She doesn't shoot a single blaster bullet.
Right.
Right. Well, I mean, yeah, I guess Padme is another one of the technically not Skywalkers. I mean, she was a good combatant as well as being a politician, and you see that in Leia. But I think. Yeah, I guess it's just I understand the impossibility of making it happen, considering the age and the amount of drugs that occurred. But
Yes.
it just really would have been cool to have some sort of element of Leia's continuing military or
Right.
like combating skill. And
Just show her holding a lightsaber just once, please.
yeah, yeah,
We'll see. Maybe they reveal all of that. Who knows?
I doubt
Maybe
it.
I
they
have a
did.
question.
Yes.
Since they pulled in the story arc of Han and Leia's children in Ben Solo, do you think that they might go in that sort of direction with Luke as well, with Mara Jade? Obviously, she's not on the rock with him, wherever that rock is. Maybe not. But in the side stories that they do marry and have children,
Yeah.
and she was badass in her own right too. She was a
That's
Sith.
the weird thing for me is that Ben Solo, who is the name of Kylo Ren, was actually the son of Luke and Mara Jade, and so
Right.
it's very confusing to me to have Han and Leia's son be called Ben Skywalker.
It's not as
Ben
confusing to me as it's not as confusing to me as it's stupid, because in the case of Han and Leia's son being named Ben, that name is not nearly as relevant to them as it was to Luke.
Right.
And that's why in the side stories,
Yeah.
Mara Jade,
Yeah.
Mara's and Luke's son was named Ben.
Ben Kenobi.
Yeah.
It is confusing because Han he learned to respect Obi-Wan, but he
Not
he
really.
basically
I mean,
yeah,
he
he
respected him after
Yeah.
his death, maybe.
yeah, he basically never showed it until The Force Awakens, So I guess it's you're right, Forrest. It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense other than like
Disney.
just bringing in that character. But yeah, it doesn't seem to apply, and it just adds more confusion to people like me who may have known of that character, and now it's just a different person.
Right.
The irony that Han calls his son names his son after a guy whom he called an old fossil before is
Right.
staggering.
Who believed some
Yeah.
stupid religion stuff.
Yeah.
So, what do you think is going to happen with Rey? Who is she? Somebody's daughter? Does she have to be?
If they make
I
her a
personally
Skywalker,
think-
I'm gonna be pissed.
Well, everybody's saying she's either a Kenobi or a Skywalker, and I'm like,
She
can't
has
she
to
just be something else? Because
I hope
mean,
so.
if
Not
you
everything has to be
if you care
related.
about the prequels at all, they weren't all family. They were different people
Yeah.
with different bloodlines. Can't she
can't-
just be a different
she-
chosen one?
Yeah, can't she just have been like created out of the midichlorians? Like that would be the best possible
No.
option.
No.
No.
No, this is not Scientology.
I mean, the way that The Force Awakens shows scenes of her as a child crying out for her parents who are leaving her.
Yeah.
I mean, her parents can't be Luke. Her parents can't be Ben
Unless
Kenobi.
Luke, we don't know what happened in those
I mean, he
whatever
can't-
amount of
I-
years,
they
like 30
shouldn't.
years or something. He could have went and had a baby on some unknown planet and then left her just
and then
'cause.
abandons her
Yeah, just-
while
just
she's
for
screaming
funsies.
for him. I mean, okay, I guess.
Well,
but
there was always the thought of like when Kylo goes crazy and kills all of the younglings,
Kylo,
that
are you-
if
Kylo Ren
Anakin.
kills. Oh, yeah. I mean, Anakin kills younglings. Does
no,
Kylo Ren?
I mean
Kylo-
when Luke
does
is
as
training the new generation of Jedi,
Oh, but he kills his
Kylo
like,
goes
stu-
crazy and
fellow
kills
students.
all of them. There
Yeah.
was
I just
there was a
I just
thought
thought-
of like if Rey was Luke's daughter being trained, that if she survived, he would take her away and hide her away so that she wouldn't die.
and abandon
Right.
her with no
But
one.
that's considering if she's Luke's daughter, which she doesn't have to be, because why does everything
I
have,
have-
to be real?
Right. I have a feeling Disney's gonna do that where I don't want that to happen, but I have a feeling she's going to be the child of someone big
Yes.
deal, who's a big deal, and I just don't want it to
It's
be.
not
I
going to
just
be like
want
a
it to
Darth
be
Vader
someone else.
reveal as the father. It's going to be like,
It
yeah, we
might
know,
be.
obviously.
I
Well,
think it's
only if it's
interesting.
something completely different than what we're saying. Will it be surprising? Because we're all like, yeah, she's obviously this guy's daughter. Or this
I
guy's daughter.
just don't want her to be a Skywalker. She can be anybody else.
Snoke.
She could be Snoke's
Snoke.
daughter
Snoke's daughter.
I
or
agree.
Yoda's daughter.
Yeah, Yoda.
That's not possible.
No.
Okay,
Jabba.
we could talk about this forever, but I want to ask
Jabba and Leia.
of these new like spin-off movies, like the origin stories
Fanfic.
and stuff like that. What do you guys want to see most? Like, what character do you want to see an origin story of most? Yoda for me, 100% all the way.
Jabba, I love.
They'll
Jabba.
probably screw it up and make me hate it, but I want to see a Yoda story all the way.
That'd be cool.
Jabba story.
So you're
Jabba.
saying like the way
You got
that,
that in A New
Marvel
Hope.
did Wolverine and all that, like who do you
No,
want to
yeah.
see?
Well,
No,
yeah,
no.
I mean they're doing
Well,
Han
yeah.
Solo's coming out next year, and then they're talking about
Spin-off
doing a.
origin.
Who do I want
Obi-Wan
to
one.
see most an origin story of?
Yes.
Kenobi would be really cool.
That's what they're planning next.
Or Qui-Gon Jinn.
I think
would
I
like
want
to
Dooku.
see-
Dooku.
Yeah, that'd be cool. I'd like to see like a Chewbacca, maybe like a
Ooh.
holiday-oriented Chewbacca.
Yeah.
version.
Well, yeah, kind of like they did with Kashyyyk and 3, just a little
Star Wars
feature,
holiday
a Wookiee
special.
feature.
Chewbacca saves Christmas.
Yeah,
We already got that, and it was awful.
like if
Star
we're
Wars
not
holiday
going with
special.
origin, if we're not going with origin stories, like really, and I know I keep harping on it, but I really want to see a Grand Admiral Thrawn trilogy. Like,
Yes.
I mean, they could definitely do something different with it, but
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's a character that everyone who is aware of that, everyone loves that character,
Yeah.
and
You know that
so
you know that Thrawn was made canon thanks to the Rebels series, right?
perfect.
Yeah.
So maybe
he's
we
actually
will
in
have
that animated show.
Yeah, that's one I actually never watched, but
Next.
I intended to.
Well, speaking of animated series and canonical storylines, the Star Wars: The Clone Wars on the Cartoon Network was made canon as well. So
Yeah.
I was watching it. It's a lot of wrap it up in 30 minutes, good lesson for children type stuff.
So like the prequels.
But and it was I think that most of them are entertaining, but I mean, I would always make sure when I was watching them I had something else to do, like because they
Sounds
weren't
great.
they weren't that good. I mean, they're okay, but I had to watch them to know, like, okay, if this is canon,
Right. It's
If
something you
they're-
have
if
to
they're
force
saying this is
to
canon,
know.
I have to
You
watch
just have
it.
to know.
Yeah.
Right, but I'm
I
not
think
that
the
into them.
seasons got-
Mhm.
The seasons got darker as they went along, and I think they made them more enjoyable for it.
Yeah, The
Yeah,
Clone
I've heard
Wars or
that
the
they got
Rebel?
really good, but I haven't watched them. I will.
Yeah.
But
So the Rebels series is canon as well.
Unfortunately,
And have you seen them all?
yes.
Why do you say unfortunately?
I think unfortunately, just because I don't like it nearly as much as the Clone Wars. Rebels is a Disney cartoon through and
Yeah.
through.
I mean, even
It
the
is.
animation of it is a little different, right?
Brad,
It
what
is-
spin-off series or movie do you want to see?
C3PO R2. That would be great. Actually, just have those two doing a bunch of fun shit all around the
We know how
galaxy.
C-3PO got started.
Well,
Yeah.
sorry,
He was built
I
by a
don't
kid.
personally, so I need to watch that movie.
Well, you
I know the origin story
saw
movie I want.
episode 1.
He's
What's that?
he's in episode 1.
Yeah.
Well, that okay, whatever.
kid
Just
built him,
more
okay?
more C3PO, more R2. I love those two. They're great.
I
Origin
totally
story
agree.
of Emperor
To see
Palpatine.
maybe not their origin, but like some spin-offs with them, because they had
No,
some fun
it's an
things.
origin story that's like 3 hours of just a kid building a robot. Just in real time, just like he set up a GoPro camera and started building his robot.
Bring Jar Jar back.
Let's even consider the fact a much more disturbing film at that when 3PO realizes he's naked when he wakes up.
Would that be more disturbing or less disturbing than finding out that your head is not attached to your body,
In all
which happened multiple times?
all seriousness, how perfect would a Emperor Palpatine origin
Yeah, it'd be
It'd
cool.
be great. I'd love that.
story?
Yes.
be?
Like you
Yes,
see
that's
why
true.
he came to the conclusions that he
Right.
did to
Well, because-
start this
Right,
political
become the
bull
Sith
crap
Lord that he
we don't care
became
about.
undercover.
Yeah.
But I mean, and then harken back to the Knights of the Old Republic type. You know what I
Yes.
mean? Like the Knights of the Old Republic, that video game that there was novels, basically the old Sith regime.
I would also say Darth Maul would be great to see
Oh man,
a origin story of him because we don't know anything about him and then he dies.
yeah,
Just
and,
a guy
and one
with a
of
sword
the,
who looks like the
one
devil.
of the comic series actually follows him after he supposedly dies when he's cut in half and falls down. He's brought back.
He's
That's
brought
and
back.
canon.
he-
That's canon.
Yeah. He assembles. Basically, like he gets himself new legs that are like octopus legs, and
If they could show that
Yeah.
story, I'd buy that.
I know.
Like show
I
him
would
crawling
totally watch
around with
that.
no legs, trying to
Well,
build something.
Forrest, you've seen the Clone Wars series, right?
Yes.
what's that?
I was saying Forrest has seen the Clone Wars series. I haven't finished it, but I watched a lot of it, and I know, at least I'm pretty sure in that Darth Maul, it comes back, right? They outline his resurrection in that.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, so
But
that's
here's the funny
canon.
thing. Here's the funny thing, though, about Maul here is when he comes back that he talks a lot more, like a lot more.
You mean he has lines? Do you know that the guy who was originally lined up to play him bailed on it? He was like a big name actor. I don't remember who it was, but he bailed on the part because he was like, I don't have any lines here. So the guy who was going to be his stunt double ended up playing the part of Darth Maul because he had like 3 lines in the whole movie.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
It
and
was
actually,
one of the attributes that actually made it as good of a character as it was is because he said so little. He
Right.
was so mysterious.
actually, to be very specific, Maul actually does die in Rebels. Not gonna say how, but he does.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah,
Well-
thanks, man.
Not exactly. We all saw it coming.
All right, Jeanette, origin story or spin-off movie. What do you
Oh,
want?
is that what we were talking about?
Yep. At some point we were, I believe.
I would really like to see kind of a more backstory on Jango Fett.
Okay.
Because obviously we
How
know
about Boba Fett? Because he doesn't really have anything.
Boba
really.
Fett was
well,
Jango Fett's
Boba's
clone.
a clone.
Right.
So
Boba
Jango
was
Fett,
a clone.
by extension, is
Sure,
the
sure,
original. So yeah.
Yeah, so I would like to see how Django got into like the line of a bounty hunter and mercenary. Basically, I would love to see more backstory on him
And how he got
because
hooked up
we
with
barely
the
get to see
clones.
any of him either before Mace Windu kills him.
Right.
Like we know that he basically becomes the lineage to the stormtroopers,
Clones, yeah.
but
Yeah.
other than that, we don't really know a whole lot about him, and we don't know anything about Boba either, as far as who he was as a real person, like as his own person.
Yeah.
Because
All we know is that
he's
he was
talking-
mad that his daddy self
Yeah.
got killed.
What I
Yeah.
want more than anything is like a reality TV series that's like Dog the Bounty Hunter, but it's like Boba the Bounty Hunter.
There you go.
Yeah, following the Fets.
Just like a joke reality TV series.
I would talk to a lot of Star Wars fans. It's like, oh, well, who do you really, really like in the original trilogy? And it's like, oh, I really like Boba Fett. Like
Because
he
he's
was such a good
mysterious.
character, but he literally had like 5 lines, and one of them was
And then
Hoth,
he
who
died
was
by
following
a
Starlight.
blind guy turning around and hitting him.
Death by Sarlacc pit.
It was such an inglorious death. But yeah, again, that's one of the things that made him so good is that he was so mysterious and he had very few lines. But one of the cool things that Jeanette you were talking about is the origin of the Fett family. And if you go way back, they follow in the order of the Mandalorians, which is where they get their armor, and that's a really exciting and interesting line of warriors as well. So they could definitely go there and have a bunch of exciting action.
Again, that's another thing that's a little bit more deeply covered by the Clone Wars series, if I'm not
True.
mistaken. The Clone Wars series does go into the Mandalore. Well, it's politics actually. There's a lot of politics involved.
Surprise!
But it's the animated series, the planet of Mandalore and their politics and things. Some of the stuff that goes on related to that happens in the Clone Wars series.
The Duchess that rules
Right.
Mandalore's Obi-Wan Kenobi's love interest.
Yeah. For like they have a little fling or whatever, but
I think a like Jedi Council from the prequels, a cool spin-off with all of them, because one of my favorite things about the prequels was to see like the different colored lightsabers and the Jedi Council and all those different guys,
Swinging
like in
everywhere, all over
episode
the
3
screen.
when they were all in all these different planets. You guys see all these different Jedis doing
Sing
different
the
things.
Jedi matter.
Yeah,
or
I
like
want to see
the
I want to see a
construction of a
spin-off
lightsaber,
Zed
like
Cast.
like
What was that, as far as?
I want to see a spin-off film of Zetchukasta, if you get the reference.
I
Nope.
do not.
nobody does.
He was one of the Jedi younglings in Revenge of the Sith, played by George.
Oh.
Lucas.
Okay.
Just some random
wow.
droid. I want to
That's
see
a
that
deep
guy.
cut.
yeah, exactly.
I mean, could we get more trade negotiations? Like that stuff is riveting.
Hey, Brad. Fun story. You were known as the Star Wars guy in high school, and we were in high school together.
That's
and we
cool.
we were both in chorus together.
Yeah.
And we had a free day one time, and you went up and I was quiet. I loved it, but didn't talk about it. And you went up and wrote on the board a Star Wars quote, and then
I don't remember
I
that
went up
moment.
and corrected it.
Oh, what was it? I don't remember this.
Dan, you're a loser for remembering this.
It was, I think you wrote, we move for
A vote of no confidence
of
in
no
Chancellor
confidence.
Yeah,
Valorum.
probably.
You said you wrote we move for a vote of no confidence,
Yeah.
and then I went up and put comma in Chancellor Valorum's
Oh,
leadership.
something like that, yeah. No, I really embraced nerd culture in high school. I loved
yeah.
being a nerd. You know, I thought like to be like the popular kid and be a nerd was cool. You know, just like really push it. And,
I was not.
and I got in band. I got the most interesting freshman award.
Nice.
And I don't know if that was like a good thing or a bad thing, but for my acceptance speech, I read the entire.
speech.
I don't think I was really allowed an acceptance speech, but I gave one.
You took the liberty.
Got one anyway.
And so I read the entire like C-3PO scene on, you know, when he's talking to the Ewoks and he's going through the Uchimini, you know.
that.
Yeah, I read the entire thing and I sat there and I watched the VHS version and had to rewind it like 30 times.
So
You
awesome.
read it
You know.
in English or
In that language, you know, I did the entire scene and did the just complete foreign
Like the-
language
like-
as my acceptance speech.
Oh,
you
I'm so
know,
happy.
when he makes
exactly.
the
This is why you're on this episode.
Yeah, exactly.
This is exactly why.
I've lost a lot of my knowledge, but I used to be like so like when episode 3 was coming out, I was so into episode 3. Like seriously, it was so much fun.
Nice. Well, last question because we got to wrap this up.
Wow,
but
really?
again, we're gonna do bonus. But are you guys ready to see a crotchety old angry Luke
yeah.
for the first time?
Absolutely. I want him to be like an angry, like pissed off. Like I want him to be like inconsolably rude. I don't know why. I just do. I just
Like,
really.
why are we
want-
still making these freaking movies?
Get off my rock.
Clint Eastwood style, like get off my lawn.
Yes. I want him to be like, you don't know what it's like to train to be a Jedi. Like, you know
You
what?
don't get it. We're
We're-
too old.
Where
to begin the
Yoda,
training.
yeah, where Yoda was like,
Yeah, he's too old.
he is too old. Like Yoda was like sort of resistant to
Right.
training Luke. I want Luke to be like mad that Rey even wants to.
Right. Well, I mean, he's basically in the
really
position
mad.
that Yoda was in. Yoda was like this outcast guy who was just hanging out on his own, and then some kid comes in, he's like, train me. I mean, that's basically where Luke is right now. So he has every right to be like, you know, screw this. I'm done with that. I thought I was just going to stand alone on a mountain peak and drink beer for the rest of my life. And you showing up asking me to do you favors?
Bringing this
Might
old
sound kinda
lightsaber back.
Stupid. Might sound kind of stupid, but I'm so used to hearing Mark Hamill's voice as the Joker in
Yes.
Batman
Yes.
that I'm really more just excited to hear his voice, like
Right.
his real voice.
Right? Because
Yep.
that's like the main thing he's been doing since then.
Yes,
Yeah.
he's a professional voice actor now, and they brought him back for the Force Awakens, and didn't give him a single speaking line. Just stand there and look ominous.
By the way, you guys should look up the ending sequence of The Force Awakens without music.
I've seen it. It's so great.
It's just weird, yeah.
It is.
I also kind of hope that Luke isn't like, I don't know, the stereotypical like, I'm a Jedi Master now, and I don't want to train you. I kind of hope he's like, maybe he's not even a Jedi anymore.
Sure.
Maybe he's like, nah, I might be even a bad guy. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
maybe he
Made
wants.
him, like,
Maybe he's
like,
not.
do you remember like the first time you watched the scene with Yoda? You know,
Yes.
like you didn't know who he was or like why he was so weird. Like,
Yeah.
He was a crazy
should-
little frogman.
yeah,
so
like,
good.
Crazy.
maybe going into exile for like 12 years makes you crazy, and
Well,
And,
it's
and
just
this
gonna
brings
hit
up
Rey with a stick.
this brings up the concern of it being an Empire Strikes Back Part 2. Is that, I mean, Luke is the new Yoda, so please don't do that. Please don't make it that obvious.
well, part of me wants to like I said with how I kind of want him to be like not a Jedi now.
An agnostic.
I wanted to be an atheist now because
Because everything's falling apart.
in the novels Luke actually joined the dark side for a short time.
Yeah.
So I mean, I kind of want it to be where Rey gets there and she needs to bring him back. I don't know, bring him back from the
I feel
brink.
like that is going to be the case, personally.
Like Rey's gonna train him. You know what I mean? Not
Right.
train
or just
him.
like re-spark
yeah.
the passion.
But so it's not gonna be
So-
like he's some sage wise old man. It's more like he needs something to bring him back, and that's what she is. Like,
Yeah.
so
I feel like he's
kinda-
gonna be like a gray Jedi, basically, like neither like
Like
of the light
Gandalf.
or of the dark. Like yeah, like Gandalf the Grey. But like there's that sect
Shut
of
up.
like they're like in the middle, you know, the gray Jedi, where like they don't necessarily follow everything that the Order of the Jedi
Right.
believe. Oh, that was my baby.
Shut up, baby.
But they're not like
baby.
evil either, like the dark side. They're more like the chaotic neutral, I guess, if you were supposed to give them like a class alignment.
yeah.
Take nerd to a next level. You're comparing Star Wars. If you guys need something to reference, let's go D&D.
Actually have a terrible joke that I think should wait for the bonus content.
Save it. Make them wait.
I
Make
just,
them pay.
I just really hope that Rey's not a Skywalker and that Luke is not good anymore. That's what
I agree. I
You want
absolutely
to
agree.
know? Like, actually, Palpatine's full canonical name now is Sheev Palpatine, which does not have a good ring to it at all.
No,
Nope.
but that's not now. That's always been. That's a
Yeah.
long time.
Yep. His first name was never Emperor
Right.
or Chancellor.
He was born emperor. His mother was very full of him.
She
His
knew it was
his
going to
mother
happen.
was Empress. I mean,
So do you want to save like theories for the
Snoke.
next film for the bonus content, or
talking about Snoke theories.
Well, I said, what do you think is going to happen in The Force Awakens, or no, The Last Jedi, like an hour ago,
Okay.
but feel free to throw some in there before we wrap this up. I keep saying we're
Whatever.
going to wrap this up, but you keep keeping it going, so I'm good for the night, so it's up to you guys.
blame Canada?
Anything, because I'm afraid I'll be right.
Yeah, like
All
I
right.
guess there's some ideas out there that that it's actually going to be kind of and I think it's implausible at this point, but there's going to kind of be a crossover where Rey becomes affiliated with the dark side, and Luke and Rey become the Sith, the two Sith masters, and
I'm down.
um,
Let's do that.
where
Great.
Kylo would transition to the light side. But I think
Oh,
at this
snap.
point, I think he's gone too far with killing his father to make that happen.
Well, I mean, did M. Night Shyamalan direct this next movie?
Well, that's one of the things, though, is early on when the script was being finalized and some people were leaking it, is they were saying that it is going to be almost M. Night Shyamalan level of twisty, kind of weird.
Sweet.
But I think that may have been just obfuscation to throw people off the
Right.
path. So.
Yeah.
I
mean,
really just
they were
kind
like,
of think that.
oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I really kind of think that both Leia and Luke are gonna die in this one.
Ooh.
Because like as we were talking earlier, obviously Leia has to go in some way, and how that is gonna happen. But I personally think that they're going to get rid of both in this
I'd
one,
be
and then
happier
have.
with that. So it's not just like one dies, one dies, one dies.
I think
Like,
Luke-
Yeah,
give a
I
surprise in
personally
there.
think episode 9 is going to be just the new 3.
I'd be fine with
Or
that.
new 4, I guess, because we're
Five.
throwing Poe in there. But
Right.
yeah, I really think Luke is going to go in this one too, and I think he might go in a very Obi-Wan-esque way as well.
You mean standing straight up and then his cloak falls down? Or
Basically,
lightsaber
yeah.
doesn't even cut through his robe?
As long as we're making future predictions for the movies, I personally think 100% that Kylo Ren will only come back. He will come back to the light side in the last movie, sacrificing himself. That is my
Right.
prediction. He will be
like
sacrificing
Darth Vader
himself.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. They're gonna do that.
I hope not.
Yeah.
I
Well-
think probably you're right, but I hope not.
I just want like the super twist. I really want like Luke to kill Rey, and just like he's the last. No, seriously, he's the last Jedi. It's like she
All
wants the
new
powers for
characters
dark.
just die.
She wants the powers for the dark side. He's the last Jedi. He's defending the race. Like, no, you're not gonna kill me.
Right.
Like, I want it to happen.
There could be no more Jedi.
So, well, episode 9 is just about Luke again, because he kills off all the new characters.
Yes.
That's
We
why
need to
they're
break
making this
form-
new trilogy.
There's
'Cause they're
such a
like, everybody's
trilo-
going to die anyway.
Like I'm
Well-
almost sick of the trilogy movie format. Like we
Yeah.
always have trilogy, and it's like we have a trilogy of trilogies now. Like we're getting to that point. It's like
Yeah, we are.
break the format.
It's true.
Just going to be a 2-film epic, and then we're done.
No, it's not. It's gonna be just Luke.
Dream.
Just Luke as the new Emperor in Episode
Yes.
9, and
Go there.
just Luke as the Emperor, and he's overlording everybody, and there are no Jedi.
Luke is
It was
Snoke.
the literally the last Jedi, and he's just a dark side guy, just Hitlering it out for
much
3
the-
hours in the last movie.
Much the same way that you just said Luke is Snoke, which is obviously, I mean, that's silly. But, I mean, much the same way that Palpatine was an open character in the prequels, he was also Sidious. Like, you'd see Palpatine in one scene, and then you'd see him, same guy. When you know that's him, you can
Yeah.
see, oh, that's definitely, obviously him.
Yeah.
But I mean, who knows? Maybe they could do that similar type of thing with Snoke. Maybe he's already somebody we've seen out in the open
Sure.
in The Force Awakens. But, and
There's
Or maybe he's Mace Windu.
right, the other thing, as
Maybe-
Jeanette was saying that she thought that maybe both Leia and Luke would
like that.
perish in this next one. The name The Last Jedi suggests that either Rey or Luke will die in this
But
movie because
the-
there can only be the Last Jedi is one. They can't both be Jedi
Well, no, but
and be the Last
what
Jedi.
is the word
What's
for
the
multiple
plural
Jedi?
form of Jedi?
It's
Oh,
Jedi.
right,
Yeah.
that's true. Yeah, I remember reading that.
Could just be the last of the Jedi that
Yeah.
they're referring to.
Jedi
and
is
throwing us
plural.
all off. That's the thing. Anytime they have these interviews and they're like, "Well, it's obviously not this," I'm like, "It's probably that," because they're not allowed to say.
thing about Snoke though is actually I hate to shovel more negativity down your guys' throats, but Snoke was actually one of my least favorite parts of The Force Awakens.
Well, but Andy
because-
Serkis is amazing though.
Andy Serkis is amazing, but he didn't really add much to it at
Yeah,
all.
there wasn't much.
He wasn't really a
He
character.
couldn't have been himself. Yeah.
Well,
No.
yeah, just
He's
remember
no-
that we saw Snoke only through hologram.
Right.
Again.
He's basically
like, we're
the,
gonna see more
the
of
Emperor
Snoke in
in
The Last
Empire
Jedi.
Strikes
Yeah.
Back.
The thing is, if you
You
go
know what's
back
funny?
to the original trilogy, first time you see the Emperor, he's
what I just
literally
said.
in
Right.
one scene, and it's like he's not
And it
even
was
the
a
same
female.
actor.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
Female playing it that they replaced later.
Yeah,
so
they did.
It's
funny,
again
too,
true to
is,
form. I'm not disappointed by the lack of depth that you were able to cultivate in like a few scenes.
It's funny too because like Snoke when he presents himself in a hologram, it's like gigantic.
Mhm.
For all we know, when we actually see Snoke in the flesh, he's gonna be like this tiny dude, Yoda size.
Dude, I'm sure he's
Exactly.
not very formidable stature wise because, yeah, exactly. Why would you do that then? Why
Like
would
Wizard of Oz
Yeah,
style.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean,
Yeah.
it's
Absolutely.
yeah.
I
think
also
so.
found it extremely unnecessary that he was CGI, and I'm not the only one who thinks that.
What do you want, man?
And you liked? I'm sorry. And you liked
Make up
Rogue
your
One?
mind.
And you liked Rogue One? How much?
All right, that's a great segue into the end of this and into the next conversation of The Force Awakens versus Rogue One. So thank you guys all for coming on and talking about this, the first Star Wars celebration of 2017. I think we're going to do this annually, the week before every single Star Wars movie from now on, because it happens every December now, unless they up the ante like Marvel and start cranking everything out every 2 weeks. But and then we'll have to really kick things up a notch. But thank you guys so much for coming on.
That concludes our broadcast.
Yeah, that concludes our broadcast day.
Click.
Thank you guys. Brad, Nathan, Jeanette, Forrest, Cole, thank you so much. And we'll talk some more here in a second.
All right.
Cole, any final thoughts?
Okay, so wait. Bonus content begins
I
right
saw
now.
it was no.
Right now. No, it's
No.
happening.
Nope.
No, it's happening.
Cole, thanks for coming on.
Dan,
Okay,
how long do
but
we
I'm gonna
have?
let you finish. But
Bro.
Kanye, thanks for being here. All right. Okay, well, thanks, guys. Hey, guys. I would typically say thanks for sticking around, but this time I'm going to say you're welcome for sticking around. Because that was my favorite conversation that I've ever had, even though it was not enlightening by any stretch. It's just something that we are fans of, and I know that a lot of you probably are too. So it was a lot of fun. And like I said, we recorded a big, long bonus episode where we yelled at each other about Rogue One and The Force Awakens, which one's better, comparing and contrasting, if those are even two different things. But yeah, if you want that, have to join the Downers Club. You can do so by going to tsidpod.com/support. And as it says in the web address, it'll be supporting the show. For as little as $1 a month, you can get that and our whole giant backlog of bonus content that we have in there. Plus a bunch of other stuff. There's a Downers Club Facebook group that is exclusive to Downers Club members. And as I said, as you get higher in your support level, you get some free stuff and some discounts and all sorts of fun stuff. So go check that out again at tsidpod.com/support. We also have merch at our merch store. Makes sense. That's a good place to put it. At tsidpod.com/shop. We've got a bunch of shirts, and I'm planning on getting quite a few new ones here in the very near future. If anybody has any suggestions on a shirt that they would like to see made with maybe a certain quote from the show or something on a certain topic, let me know, because I design all my shirts, so they're free for me to make. And I can make exactly what you want if I feel like it. If I don't feel like it, then I won't. But go check those out. If you can't tell, I'm just excited for The Last Jedi. I'm not gonna try and hide it anymore. So, as always, please go check us out on iTunes, review the show, subscribe to it. That's the best way to help us get the word out there. Also, go check us out on Facebook and Twitter. Facebook is fb.com/The System Is Down. And our Twitter handle is at TSIDpod. So please, go check all those out. Like, share, subscribe, review, all that stuff. And go watch The Last Jedi, because I'm going to be doing a review of it for Rotten Potatoes. And there's going to be some spoilers in there. So go check it out and get into the Downers Club. Have I exhausted this topic enough? Are you still listening? Have you clicked off already? Probably. All right. Well, thanks for listening, you guys. I really enjoy your support, and I really enjoy that you are listening to this way longer than I'm sure you set out to when this show started. So, until next time, question everything and stay uncomfortable. Thanks. This has been a Goulash Media production. goulashmedia.net.
This concludes our broadcast day. Click.